A year ago, Jacob and Rebecca made the decision to move to a new town. Jacob had received a promotion, making the relocation a perfect opportunity. Plus, the town was further south, offering a warmer climate that felt much more pleasant. Of course, this new chapter meant leaving behind old friends, now thousands of miles away, and seeking new connections. Rebecca also had to restart her job search. Luckily, she quickly landed a stable office job in the heart of the city. At her new workplace, Rebecca formed friendships, including one with Chloe, a colleague who had been with the company since the early days. Chloe knew all the ins and outs of the office, from helpful work tips to the hidden challenges. Initially, getting Chloe's help was tricky, but over time, they started chatting outside of work. Rebecca soon realized that Chloe was an intriguing person. Despite the common belief that making genuine friendships as an adult is difficult, they truly bonded. Chloe, who was 34 and unmarried, was extremely shy, especially around new men. Her nervousness often led her to blurt out odd, unexpected comments that almost guaranteed she wouldn't get a second date. She had a few relationships she considered serious, but for the men, they were mostly casual flings rather than long-term commitments. One evening, over dinner, Rebecca mentioned that Chloe had been ghosted by yet another potential boyfriend and was hoping to meet up at a cafe. A cafe, huh? Jacob said with a sigh. Are you sure she didn't mean a bar? I've never been there, so I can't say, Rebecca replied softly. But you know Chloe, no drinking? Jacob asked, raising an eyebrow. Not this time, Rebecca assured him. Last time she came over with a bottle of wine after a breakup. She wouldn't stop whining for hours. The next day, Rebecca went to meet Chloe, but what she didn't realize was that Chloe had been less than truthful. Instead of being dumped, she had simply grown tired of being single and decided to try something new, speed dating. A local group was hosting the event with tables arranged in a circle, each occupied by a female participant. The men would rotate from table to table, spending a minute at each one. When the timer buzzed, they would move on to the next woman. At the end, participants could choose who they wanted to continue talking to. Rebecca had no idea what she was walking into until she saw the setup. Chloe, you dragged me to a speed dating event? She whispered, stunned. Please don't be mad, Chloe pleaded. I really wanted to try it, but I was too scared to come alone. But I'm married, Rebecca exclaimed, exasperated. You don't have to participate. Just sit and watch, Chloe urged. However, the organizers didn't allow spectators. To make things worse, one of the female participants had canceled at the last minute, so they seated Rebecca at an empty table. Not wanting to cause a scene or disrupt the event, she reluctantly agreed. She figured she could just tell every man who sat down that she was happily married. Problem solved. The host explained the rules once more, turned on the music, and signaled the start of the first round of mini dates. The first few men eagerly approached, showering Rebecca with compliments. But as soon as they noticed her wedding ring, their interest faded. A few college students jokingly suggested that a married woman might be more fun, but for the most part, Rebecca just sat there awkwardly, counting the minutes until it was over. Meanwhile, she observed Chloe, who was clearly nervous, stumbling through each introduction. Finally, it was the last round. A tall, handsome man in his 40s slid into the seat across from Rebecca. He flashed a charming smile, making her pause for a moment. She didn't immediately show her ring. I noticed you the moment you walked in, he said in a smooth voice. And I also saw your ring, so don't worry, he added, making Rebecca's cheeks flush. We're just chatting, right? That's not a crime. He chuckled and introduced himself as Ethan. It turned out he was married as well. According to him, his wife was completely fine with him attending these events, claiming it was a way to network for business. Many of the women there were in complicated situations or press of time, making these speed dates a quick alternative. For Ethan, it was simply a way to meet potential business partners. Despite the brief exchange, Ethan made a strong impression. He was intelligent, charismatic, and undeniably attractive, causing Rebecca to feel a pang of guilt for experiencing a spark with a stranger. It almost seemed like he sensed her inner conflict. As the timer went off, he smiled and said, how about we grab coffee tomorrow? I'd love to hear your thoughts on a restaurant idea. I'm working on something, Ethan murmured as he slid his business card across the table before strolling away. That evening, when Rebecca returned home, Jacob casually inquired about her day. She responded vaguely, simply stating that everything was fine, choosing to omit any mention of the speed dating event. After all, she hadn't done anything wrong, so there was no reason to stir up unnecessary tension. Yet, as the night stretched on, her mind remained clouded, preoccupied with the business card that now felt like a weight in her pocket. Over the next week, Rebecca became increasingly distant, speaking less and seeming lost in thought. She also started spending more time with Chloe after work, wandering through the city or grabbing coffee. Jacob found it unusual how inseparable the two had suddenly become, but at first, he didn't dwell on it. That was until one afternoon, when he spotted Chloe strolling through the park hand in hand with a man. Guess she finally found someone, Jacob mused, relieved that perhaps Chloe wouldn't be pulling Rebecca into her endless drama anymore. That evening, as Rebecca arrived home, Jacob nonchalantly asked, "So, how's Chloe doing?" Rebecca sighed. "Same as always. Spent hours crying on my shoulder." Jacob nearly choked on his drink. He had just seen Chloe, radiant, cheerful, and far from heartbroken. Something wasn't adding up. Alarm bells rang in his mind, prompting him to watch Rebecca more closely. A couple of days later, when Rebecca claimed she was meeting Chloe, Jacob seized the opportunity. Leaving work early, he positioned himself near her office and waited. Soon enough, he saw her step outside and walk straight toward a dark-colored car parked nearby. As she climbed inside, the man behind the wheel greeted her with a lingering kiss before presenting her with a bouquet of roses. Jacob's blood simmered with rage, but he clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay composed. Instead of storming over, he decided to follow them. He trailed behind as they drove through the city, eventually stopping at a hotel. That was the breaking point. Slamming his foot on the gas, Jacob pulled up beside them and leaped out, his fury boiling over. Without hesitation, he marched up and delivered a thunderous slap across Rebecca's face, making her head snap to the side. Then, he turned to the man and landed a brutal punch square on his jaw, sending him staggering backward. "You deceitful liar." Jacob bellowed at Rebecca, "Hand over your keys. You're never setting foot in my house again." Shaking, Rebecca fumbled through her purse before handing them over. She parted her lips to say something, but Jacob silenced her with a cutting wave of his hand. His eyes flickered toward the other man, and that's when he noticed the wedding band on his finger. Disgusted, Jacob shot them both one last glare before storming back to his car. Once home, Jacob wasted no time. He yanked open the closet and began stuffing Rebecca's clothes into trash bags, his movements fueled by pure betrayal. As he pulled down a handful of dresses, a small piece of paper fluttered to the floor. He bent down and picked it up. It was the very business card Rebecca had pocketed that night. Curious, Jacob looked up the company online, and when the familiar face of Ethan popped up, a fresh wave of anger coursed through him. He despised that man now more than ever. With cold precision, Jacob made his next move. He tracked down Ethan's wife and laid out the truth about her husband's little extracurricular activities. Turns out, she had been completely in the dark, and she was anything but pleased. Whatever happened to Ethan after that explosive revelation was anyone's guess. But there was more. As fate would have it, Ethan's wife happened to be a close friend of Rebecca's boss. Within days, Rebecca was terminated from her position. Since she had been working off the books, they refused to pay her the remaining balance of her salary. Now, she had neither an income nor a home. Even Chloe couldn't offer help. She had already moved in with her new boyfriend, leaving Rebecca to fend for herself. And so, as karma would have it, Rebecca found herself utterly alone, burdened with nothing but regret for the choices that had led her to this point.